trying to lock me down and always up and
Okay. It's funny when you only hear the beginning part, you're not quite sure, okay, where's one, where's the beat? And then when it kind of comes in with the hi-hat, you start to get an idea, and it takes just a second to go, oh, okay, now I've got it locked in. I understand what that phrase is. And what it is, let me listen again. All right, I think this is what we have. Okay, so this chord progression is really, really nice. The syncopation of it is also really nice too, and it really helps kind of just like everything just sort of flows along with a nice groove. Here's basically what it is. Now the exact voicings of the chords might be a little different, but this is the chord structure. It goes like this. Start off with an E flat minor 7, minor 9, minor 11, I don't know. E flat minor 7 type chord. Now this next chord, you could either use it as F minor 7 or a D flat major, just with the F in the bass, right? It sort of serves the same function. We're creating a bass line that starts on E flat and goes up. And it goes up to this G flat major 7 chord. So E flat minor 7, and then I think that it's D flat over F. And the reason I think it's D flat over F and not F minor 7 is because I do not hear a C in there. Let's listen again. That second chord, I'm not hearing a C. I'm only hearing the notes out of like a D flat add 9 chord. Very simple, right? But just spread out with an F in the bass. That's what I'm hearing. So I think it's D flat over F as opposed to F minor 7. But this is one of those things where it's like, could you play it either way and have it work? Yeah, it serves really kind of the same purpose. It's just a difference in voicing is really all. E flat minor 7, D flat over F, G flat major 7. That's the first 3 chords. Then we repeat G flat major 7 to A flat. And honestly, it sounds pretty straightforward. I don't think there's really any alterations in that. And then we land on B flat minor 7. Okay, so the first 6 chords. Then we move on, we jump up to E flat minor 7 again, but only this time we climb down to an D flat, to an A flat major chord, but I can hear that the D flat is inside of that chord. So it's kind of like an A flat with a sus4, add 4. I don't know, somebody will tell me the proper name for that, but it's an A flat major chord. We're just keeping that 4th in there as well. It's a nice sound. And then the last 3, we go back to the B flat, and then our bass note goes down to that F again, but again, same thing. I think we're dealing with a D flat major chord here, just with an F in the bass. And then we land on G flat major 7. So let's see where we go with it.
now I don't know where to go after you love me this way. After you love me so good, how are you gonna tell me you don't wanna stay? You tell me I'm too young, but I gave you what you wanted. Baby, how dare you treat me?
That's really cool. So the one thing that's sticking out to me that is really nice about this is that the melody, which goes, of course, obviously with the lyrics, it interacts with that rhythmic motif that we have going on, which is we're dealing with the 4th 16th note of a beat, which is so like 1E and 2E and 3E and and that's where we're getting our rhythmic motif from. So because we're doing that, it makes sense to have pieces of the melody interact with that rhythmic motif. And it really helps tie everything together, helps propel the song forward, and it makes it all have a ton of context. And that's what helps it ultimately groove. And groove is what we hear when the rest of the bass line and the drums come in, really capitalizing on that 16th note field with those upbeats. And it really just like, everything kind of goes together to create this really rolling type of, walk back and forth kind of groove that is really, really effective here.
How are you gonna tell me you don't wanna stay? You tell me I'm too young, but I gave you what you wanted. Baby, how dare you treat me just like a boy?
So Charlie's using an interesting thing here which works really well, and that is when you have a melodic figure, like he's using here. Something like that. When you have something like that that you're using over and over again in a row to complete the phrase, what's happening underneath is that the chords are going somewhere different each place. But because these chords are extremely diatonic, which means they all kind of share a lot of common tones, they share a lot of just general nature about the chords. In other words, I keep playing that D flat major scale around every chord in the chord progression and it all sounds good. That's kind of like, I don't know, that's how I think of things that are very diatonic. There's not a lot of chromatic movement. There's not a lot of subdominance and things that would create a completely different sound that would require a completely different scale. We're staying very much in the same area. And so what that does is it makes it so that Charlie can write a melody that is the same thing repeating, but yet the chords underneath are changing, versus maybe if the chords were staying very, very similar, like like some other pop songs where it's just kind of like the same 3 chords or 4 chords in a row over and over and over again, but the melody might change around. In this context, we've kind of swapped it. So we have the chords changing underneath, but we're using the same melodic figure, and each time we change those chords, that melodic figure still works, but it kind of sounds a little bit different. So we have... and then it changes a little bit from there, I think. It's a really cool device, and I think it kind of really helps this flow along and have an interesting sound, even using the same melody over and over. Yeah. So this is one of the things that Adam told me about that he thought was really cool. This pop song has like kind of a jazz solo in the middle of it, which you would expect, I suppose, from Charlie, because he's such a great musician and a really, really good piano player. So it's, it's not surprising, but it is so cool to see this kind of thing. Now, obviously, it's not like unheard of. I mean, guitar solos are a thing all the time. That's kind of a staple of rock and many other genres. But the content inside of this solo is definitely formatted a lot like a jazz solo, and it's just cool to see something like this in an overall genre like this. Yeah, and then the drop back into the groove is super cool. All right, so let's figure out what this is. Okay, here we are, like 35 listens later, and I think it's like... Those are the notes. That I'm 100% sure of. And the trick is just familiarizing your hand with the shape to be able to pull that out. 17 tries later. All right, let's try to put it together. Nice space. So So one thing, and we pointed this out in the last time we talked about Charlie Puth playing the piano. For me personally, and people have all kinds of different preferences, but for the style that I like, I feel like Charlie's got really good taste with this type of music when it comes to lines and just like phrasing and rhythmic stuff, melodic stuff too, with improvisation in this manner. And I just really like those lines. I really like how they fit with the chord progression. I'd have to practice that a little more to get it perfectly in line, but those are the notes. So you can take that and work with it as much as you want to play along with Charlie, but that's about the most effort I'm gonna put in. And then I love when the beat comes back in, because we just have this really nice interlude with the solo and everything's kind of quiet with just the vocals doing the harmony, and then all of a sudden we just poof, drop back into it, and like, it's great. That's a really nice rhythmic, because we have those last two were not right. The way that rhythm just lines up with the harmonic and rhythmic motif going on underneath throughout the entire song, it's a really nice back and forth play kind of thing. They don't line up perfectly, but they interact with each other in a way that really helps the groove propel forward. Yeah, it's really nice. You know, it's always so refreshing to hear what is essentially pop music that is set up in a way that's got really great groove, because that's not always the case with a lot of mainstream pop music. It's got really good groove, it's got interesting harmony, and not necessarily interesting in the way that like, oh, it goes so many different places that I wasn't expecting or I didn't hear before, or something totally new. It's just that it's more in depth than what you might hear out of a typical 4-chord progression, which is so common, but it's like used in a very thoughtful way. And the rhythmic motif is fantastic, and the way that it carries through the entire tune, and the way that the melody interacts with it, with its own rhythmic motif that intertwines and doesn't copy, so to speak, but it kind of plays around with it, joins it, and then moves away. And like that, all that stuff is, to me, that feels like very thoughtful composition. It makes for a really fun tune that grooves a ton, and it's just really nice to listen to. So anyways, I hope some of this was helpful to kind of see not only how this tune is constructed, but also what makes a tune like this, in my opinion, maybe a step above a lot of other things that happen to be in the mainstream pop sort of genre. So anyways, let me know if there's other Charlie Puth tunes or just other tunes in general that you'd like me to check out, like to hear my thoughts on, or maybe have me break down how it's constructed. I'm happy to do that. Leave them in the comments below. Once again, if you'd like to check out the merch store, I'd be so appreciative if you consider supporting the channel. Thank you for that. That's gonna do it for me today, and we will see you in the next video.